Samsung used to be the number one player some time back, and it still is, but then a lot of Chinese companies are trying to eat away into its market. So Samsung has to do something new here, and that is what they're doing here with the Samsung Galaxy A8, with a new series that they're bringing in for the higher mid-range with a renewed design focus. This is GK from TechPP.com, and today we'll dive into the detailed review of the Samsung Galaxy A8. This one is focused more for the folks who want to flaunt their phones, who are looking for a very good looking phone that is ergonomically well designed, that is shiny, that is glossy, that is stylish and all that, but don't care much about the specs that run the phone. Something like the Galaxy X6, which is more powerful for folks who want to do high-end gaming and high-end photography and all that, but it comes at a bigger price. But this is for the other segment of the folks who want to have a very good looking phone, but the usage is more mediocre, more on a normal front. So let's look at the design aspects of this phone, which is really good. So the A8 comes at a thickness of little more than 5 mm, and this is the slimmest Samsung phone ever, and it is also lightweight. But the one aspect that is glaring here is the 5.7-inch AMO LED screen, packing a pixel density of 330 and so on. The screen is very good, but this is a real tall fella. So let's look at the buttons that are positioned here. We have the volume rockers here that are really hard to reach. Of course, I have slightly bigger hands, but if you're someone who has small hands, the positioning of this would really irritate you. And given the fact that the back is really slippery, you'll have to struggle, and at times the phone might slip off your hands and you will have to bring in probably a back cover or something, but that takes away the slimness of the phone. We also have the power rocker at the right side, but how we wish this was just positioned slightly below, so you could, when you're using it in your right hand or in your left hand, your fingers could easily reach out. On the top, you have the microphone, and at the bottom you have the USB port and the 3.5 mm audio jack. And sitting here pretty is the iconic Samsung home button that also acts as a fingerprint scanner, which we'll touch upon a little later, and then the menu and the back button. So overall, this phone is good to hold, but then it's really tall, and the iconic bump at the back is still prevalent, and the speaker grill as well, which is very good. We'll touch upon that as well, and of course the LED flash and the Samsung Duos logo and the Samsung logo. And other aspects of the design, if you observe here, the tiny cuts here, the chamfering that actually help one to hold the phone. These chamfers actually sit somewhere between your palm and help in actually not slipping off. So that is another key design aspect that Samsung has taken care here. So powering this tall fellow is the Samsung Exynos 5430 octa-core chipset, clocking at 1.7 or 1.8 gigahertz, and this, along with 2 gigs of RAM, will be powering a lot of things that will go on here. And this processor is slightly above the Snapdragon 615, which incidentally comes in in the A8 released in other parts or the global version of this phone. So we were apprehensive, around the performance of the phone, because the Snapdragon 615 is infamous for heating issues and such. So we put this to test, and we are happy to report that even when we do high-end gaming such as the Asphalt 8, the Real Racing 3 and such, we did not encounter a lot of issues. And there was warming up of the phone, given the fact that it has a lot of metal built into its design, but never so hot that we had to drop the phone off. But of course, when we put the Asphalt 8 into higher mode of graphics, it did have a couple of frame drops and such, but that was again expectable given the fact that it has just 2 gigs of RAM and the processor is just mid-range and not something of the flagship level. So it's not just in the gaming. The all-new TouchWiz is so smooth. Of course, there are lags that are prevalent here. You see that it takes a couple of seconds to load, and the camera app also. So more often than not, you will still see that lag, but then it's not as much as you would see in the previous versions of the TouchWiz UI. So that's a welcome improvement. So the different things like the flip board that comes by default, takes a second to bring in the latest news. This is very good. And of course, Samsung has retained its iconic toggle bar at the top here. It didn't go with the default lollipop UI that comes here. And a lot of customized options. Also, if you look at the themes, there's a material dark theme. So themes, it's not just changing the icons, but seamlessly changing the overall look and feel of the phone. And we especially love this material dark theme because it suits so well to the folks who love the stock Android experience. So if you see, everything changes. Previously we saw that you change the themes, but the coloration of the toggle icon still stayed, but everything changes here. So this is almost like the stock Android experience that you get on a Nexus phone. So that's another improvement that Samsung has brought here with the TouchWiz UI. We were pleasantly surprised by the battery performance. On a typical day, this phone will take you through the day, even when you're using Wi-Fi or the 4G. And we got good screen on time anywhere between 4 and 5, which was really impressive given the fact that this is 5.7 inch screen and packing a lot of pixels into it. So no concerns there at all with the battery. The other aspects of the performance, the speaker grill that we have here is decently positioned. We see a lot of phones having the speaker grill at the bottom or at the sides here, which actually gets covered up when you're gaming or when you place it on the table. But thanks to the bump here, that actually helps in trying to unmuffle the sound that comes off from the speaker. Call quality was no issues at all, and the reception was again great. This worked seamlessly in the 4G as well. So we have the dual SIM ports here that take in nano SIM, and one of the ports will also take in the micro SD. Not many people would prefer this, because if I was using 2 SIMs and I wanted to add additional memory, this phone supports 128 gigs of additional memory that can be added. I wouldn't be able to do that. So that's again some option that users will have to live with. Dual SIM and one of the ports acting as the micro SD slot as well. And powering this fellow is the massive 3050 mAh battery. Again, like I just said, no issues there, the battery performance. Coming to the key aspect of this phone again is the camera. The camera app again is the iconic Samsung app. It has many different options at the left here, and also the processing is fast, but when the lights go down, it takes a tad delay, around couple of seconds delay. And when you actually look at the pictures, Samsung is shooting for the pictures to be more visually appealing as compared to keeping it close to the true colors. Even in the low light conditions, the performance was good. It handled the exposures well, but then when you actually zoom in, you observe that it's trying to bring in digital sharpness as compared to keeping it real, and hence the noise levels were low. But then that is what Samsung is always known for. Pictures were slightly saturated, but then never to an extent that it started looking so unreal. Even if you zoom, many minute details were still retained. And in terms of the front-facing camera also, it delivers very good pictures. So overall, this is a phone that you would want to buy if you're looking for a very good camera, in addition to the style aspects of the phone. Coming to another attractive feature of this phone is the fingerprint scanner that works so well. Setting this up is really easy, and this one works most of the times. And it's not that you have to struggle, and thanks to the fact that the fingerprint scanner sits pretty on top of the Samsung's home button, it's easy to just click and go ahead with that. We've also seen this in Galaxy S6 and the iPhone, and also OnePlus 2. This is on par with the performances of that, and you'll have no problems at all. Now coming to the price, this is positioned somewhere between the 30 and the 32,000 INR mark. Now when you merely look at the processor perspective, you have other options like the Mi 4i, Eureka and so on, which are performing decently enough. But this phone is pitched slightly in a different level, where the design is so good and the camera module is somewhere in the level of the flagship phones, and the Super AMO LED screen that gives visually appealing, and overall the phone is physically attractive. And that's when you start comparing this with slightly upper end phones like the Nexus 6 or the HTC E9 Plus. So if you're willing to spend that extra buck in getting a phone that you can really flaunt around, that has a very good overall experience in terms of the media and the camera, then this is the phone that you can definitely look for, especially given the fact that it has a big screen and a highly reliable battery, which is so hard to find in any sort of phones nowadays. So that's what this is. Hope you like this review. Do hit the subscribe and the like button for more upcoming interesting videos on the gadgets world. Until the next one, this is GK from TechPP.com signing off. Bye-bye.